In the quiet Swedish town of Arboga, what began as an ordinary evening for a young mother and her two children turned into one of the most horrifying crimes the country had ever seen. At 7:07 p.m., a simple online chat went silent, and within minutes, a peaceful family home became a blood-soaked crime scene that left investigators baffled and a community shaken to its core. Arboga, Sweden, March 17, 2008. It was a cold, typical night that month. In the warmth of her home, a mother was lovingly caring for her two children. Emma Jungastig, 23, mother to Max, 3, and Saga, 1.5, was having what seemed to be an ordinary evening. Emma was preparing dinner, waiting for her fiancé, Thorn Hellberg, to come home from work. While cooking, Emma chatted online with her sister, Katarina. They exchanged messages about plans for their parents' upcoming wedding anniversary. But suddenly, at 7:07 p.m., the conversation just stopped mid-sentence. Complete silence. Katarina found it strange and sent another message asking if everything was okay. No response. She then tried calling Emma several times, but every call went straight to voicemail. Katarina felt something was seriously wrong. Desperate, she called Thorn, Emma's fiancé, who was on his way home. He tried to reassure her, saying maybe Emma had just left her phone charging or got distracted with the kids. But when Thorn got home, he found the front door unlocked. That never happened in their house. He called out for Emma and the children, but no one answered. The silence in the house was unusual. A chill ran down his spine as soon as he stepped inside. He immediately noticed the house was completely trashed. At first, he thought the two kids went overboard with their play, but soon he realized the destruction was far too severe to be just a game. Then something caught his eye at the far end of the room. It was Emma. She was on the floor, almost unrecognizable. Thorn went into shock but quickly remembered the two little ones, Saga and Max, and rushed upstairs to check on them. As he approached, panic took over his mind, and what he found was a scene no one should ever see. Max and Saga lay on the floor covered in blood. Their heads and faces were completely destroyed. Before we dive back into the case, we need to rewind time to get the full picture. Emma Jungastig was born on February 16, 1985, in Stockholm, Sweden's capital. From a young age, she dreamed of something simple. A family and a modest home would be enough. For a while, it seemed like everything was falling into place the way Emma wanted. At 19, in love with her high school boyfriend, a young man named Nicholas, she got married, believing she was taking the first step toward building that future. Sometime later, their first son, Max, was born. A sweet boy with alert eyes who changed everything between them. The house got more exhausting, but also happier. About a year and a half later, little Saga arrived. What was supposed to be a peaceful, loving home turned into a battleground. Immaturity, exhaustion, and daily struggles sparked fights between the couple. Soon after Saga's birth, the couple decided to separate. It wasn't an amicable split. In fact, it was full of tension. The exes went to court multiple times, battling over child custody and support payments. At one point, Nicholas told Emma he wanted to get back together, but by then, Emma wanted nothing to do with him, so she chose to move on with her kids. She decided to relocate to start fresh. She chose Arboga, a small, quiet town of about 11,000 people located about 93 miles from Stockholm. Arboga is the kind of place people seek for its peaceful vibe. It's a place where nobody expects anything bad to happen, but that was about to change. It was in Arboga that Emma met Thorn Hellberg, a simple, kind, hardworking guy. They met online and quickly felt they wanted to be together. At first, Emma worried Thorn wouldn't like that she already had two kids from a previous relationship. But Thorn didn't care and accepted Emma and her kids without hesitation. Thorn saw in Emma and the children a chance to have a family, something he'd always wanted. In the first months, he treated Max and Saga like they were his own. The kids quickly grew attached to him. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt she might have found the right person. Emma and Thorn's relationship started just 1 year after her divorce. Everything moved fast, and they realized they couldn't live without each other. In just 2 months, they bought a house together and began building a future. They set their wedding for summer 2008. Everything pointed to a true fresh start. But that dream was brutally shattered that winter night when Thorne came home from work and found his new family almost wiped out. Even in shock, he managed to call emergency services. And when paramedics arrived, they were horrified. The crime scene looked like something out of a horror movie. Yet, despite everything, all three were still alive. Critical, but alive. Emma and the children were rushed to the hospital and placed in intensive care. The doctors told Thorne their chances were slim, and if they survived, they would likely have lasting damage. While the medical team fought to save Emma and the kids, detectives worked to figure out what had happened in the house. The more they examined the scene, the deeper the mystery grew. There were no signs of forced entry, no blood from anyone else in the house, nothing to suggest a random burglar. The only certainty for the detectives was that this wasn't a robbery. None of the victims' valuables were taken. Wallets, money, jewelry, and everything of value were still there, all in their proper places. Nothing was missing. To the detectives, this made it clear it was a targeted attack, an attack meant to wipe those people out. The police concluded it was something personal, very personal, with a lot of hatred behind it. According to the police, the murder weapon was not found at the scene, but they believed it was something heavy, like an iron bar or a hammer. The attacker delivered multiple blows to Emma and her children. His clear intent was to kill them, and he made sure of it. In the desperate attempt to save Emma and the kids, paramedics unintentionally disturbed the entire crime scene. This delayed the investigation somewhat, but given the severity, the paramedics had to do what was necessary. Even after a thorough forensic examination, Swedish police found nothing of significance. No fingerprints, no hair strands from anyone outside the family, and no biological material that could provide DNA. Officers began to theorize that the perpetrator might be someone the family knew. The first suspect on the list was Thorne Hellberg. He called emergency services at 7:20 p.m. Emma had stopped responding to her sister's messages at 7:07 p.m. Just a 13-minute window. Police theorized that only someone familiar with the family's routine could commit the crime in such a short time and escape unnoticed. To them, everything pointed to an insider, someone with access to the house, knowledge of the routine, and a motive. However, Thorne's co-workers confirmed he worked his full shift that day. Moreover, security cameras along Thorne's route from work to home recorded him returning after his shift ended. The timestamps on the footage showed that during the time of the crime, from 7:07 p.m. to around 7:18 p.m., Thorne was still on his way home. Thorne arrived around 7:20 p.m. and immediately called emergency services. Because of this, Thorne was ruled out as a suspect. Authorities believe it's very likely that while heading home, Thorne crossed paths with the attacker somewhere along the way. The second suspect on the list was Nicholas, Emma's ex-husband. The police were almost certain the crime was personal. Nothing in the house was stolen. It was either something personal or a maniac on the loose. But first, they had to investigate those closest to Emma. With Thorne cleared, Nicholas was the next potential suspect. Nicholas and Emma had a troubled history. They fought frequently, and their separation was far from friendly. Emma had even filed a complaint against Nicholas for assault. To the police, Nicholas might have committed the crime out of revenge. However, after investigating, they found Nicholas was in another city at the time of the attack, so he was cleared. Additionally, Thorne told police that Nicholas and Emma no longer fought and had settled their issues a long time ago. The police spoke with many people close to Emma, friends, family, and neighbors. Authorities hoped to gather information that could point to someone wanting revenge on Emma for any reason. However, everyone the police interviewed said Emma had no enemies or anyone wishing her harm. The only person mentioned was Nicholas, Emma's ex. But since he was investigated and cleared, the police were left with no leads. After giving his statement, Thorne, deeply shaken, left the station. He was so distressed he couldn't even drive, so Emma's father had to pick him up that day. Once in his father-in-law's car, Thorne fell into complete silence. The atmosphere was so heavy neither of them could say a word. While driving to the hospital to visit Emma, her father tried to break the silence by turning on the radio. He hoped to hear music on the local station, but instead a news report was on, the worst news they could hear. The announcer spoke about the brutal crime, its victims, Emma and her children, and how the whole town was in shock. Then came the heartbreaking news. Max and Saga had succumbed to their injuries just minutes earlier. Hearing that, Thorn and Emma's father broke down in tears. It was as if their world had collapsed. Not long ago, those two innocent children were playing carefree in the comfort of their home, and now they were gone. For the family, nothing about this made sense. Natingatiol. So, if the main suspects were cleared, the question remains who truly committed this shocking crime? Was it someone close to the family, or is there a darker secret still hidden? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think.